All right, let's jump right in and start planning this 9-day Dolomite adventure. I'm already picturing those towering peaks and charming villages. It just sounds magical.
It is, truly. The Dolomites offer such a unique blend of, well, everything. Rugged mountains, green valleys, charming towns, and that mix of Italian, Austrian, and Latin cultures, it's captivating.
I know, that's what makes it so exciting, but also a little overwhelming to plan. Where should we even start with just 9 days?
Well, I think starting strong is key. How about we kick things off in Bolzano?
Bolzano? Okay, tell me more.
It's the capital of South Tyrol, and it really embodies that blend of Italian and Austrian influences I was talking about.
Oh, okay, I see. And what should we see there?
Well, first you have to wander through Walther Square. It's
Sure.
surrounded by colorful buildings. Picture like this vibrant mix of architectural styles and just soak in that atmosphere.
Walther Square, got it. I'm picturing it now. And what about, like, history and museums and stuff, since we're there?
You're in luck. Bolzano has the South Tyrolean Archaeological Museum. It's where you'll find Ötzi the Iceman.
Wait, Ötzi the Iceman, like the actual 5,000-year-old mummy.
The one and only. His tools and clothing are amazingly preserved. It's like a window into the Copper Age.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so we've got history, culture. What about venturing outside the city a bit?
Oh, definitely. Just outside Bolzano, there's this medieval castle perched on a rocky outcrop, Castel Roncolo.
A castle? Oh, I love castles. Tell me more.
It's known for these incredibly detailed frescoes. They depict scenes of courtly life, and it just feels like stepping back in time.
Okay, that's going on the list, Castel Roncolo. So we've got Bolzano for history, culture, castles. What's next on this Dolomite adventure?
From Bolzano, we'll head south to Cortina d'Ampezzo. It's about a 2-hour drive, but trust me, the scenery along the way is breathtaking.
Cortina d'Ampezzo. I've heard of this. It's like the elegant side of the Dolomites, right?
Exactly. Think charming streets, boutiques with handcrafted leather goods, cafes for that leisurely espresso.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like my kind of place. And didn't it host the Winter Olympics?
Yes. Back in 1956. You can even visit the Olympic Stadium. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I bet there's a cool energy there. And, okay, I have to ask Trecime di Lavaredo, how close are we to those iconic peaks?
You're right there. They practically symbolize the Dolomites, and they're a must-see while you're in Cortina.
They look so majestic in pictures.
Yeah.
What's the best way to see them?
There's a fantastic loop trail around the peaks, not too difficult of a hike, but if hiking isn't your thing, you can always opt for a scenic drive.
A hike with those views, I think I can handle that. Okay, so we've got Bolzano for history and culture, Cortina d'Ampezzo for, well, everything. Where to next?
Let's head deeper into the heart of the Dolomites to Alta Badia. It's about an hour from Cortina.
Alta Badia. I'm intrigued. What's special about this area?
It's about a 2-hour drive, and trust me, the drive itself is an experience. Picture winding roads, those iconic Dolomite peaks towering in the distance.
Sounds like a perfect Dolomite drive.
Yeah.
And you've got Corvara and La Villa highlighted here. Tell me about those.
Those villages really embody that quintessential Dolomite charm. Imagine cozy wooden stone houses, flower boxes, all nestled against breathtaking mountain scenery.
Okay, I'm getting serious Sound of Music vibes now.
Yeah.
And what's around those villages? What's there to explore?
Well, Alta Badia is home to the Fensens Prague's Nature Park. If you love hiking and nature, you've got to check it out.
Another park? Wow. The Dolomites are packed with them.
They really are. This one has trails for every level, gentle paths through meadows or more challenging climbs with those panoramic views.
All right, so we got a good mix of things going so far, but where to after Alta Badia?
From there, let's head to Val Gardena. It's another valley known for, well, more breathtaking scenery and charming villages. About an 1.5-hour drive.
Val Gardena. Got it. This is really giving me a sense of just how diverse the Dolomites are.
Absolutely. Each valley, each town has its own character. Val Gardena is known for its wood carving tradition. You'll find shops with these intricate sculptures. Some of them date back centuries.
Wow, so it's like art and history mixed in with those mountain views. What are the main towns there?
The main three are Ortisei, St. Ulrich, and St. Christina. Each one is unique, but they've all got that charm.
Okay, so much to see already, but I know we can't forget about the mountains themselves. What are some must-see natural wonders in Val Gardena?
You absolutely can't miss Sechita and Alpe di Siusi. Sechita is a mountain peak you can take a cable car up, and the views. Just imagine jagged peaks piercing the sky, valleys below.
A cable car ride with those views. I'm sold. And what about Alpe di Siusi? What's special about that?
It's Europe's largest high-altitude alpine meadow. Picture rolling green hills, wildflowers, all set against a backdrop of those Dolomite peaks. Perfect for hiking, biking, just being in nature.
Wow, I'm putting both of those on my list. Okay, so we've got Bolzano, Cortina d'Ampezzo, Alto Badia, Val Gardena. Where to next? This is a whirlwind.
Let's head towards one of the most iconic sites, Lake Braze. It's about an hour from Val Gardena, and, well, it's pretty unforgettable.
Lake Braze, I have to admit, the pictures I've seen, it looks unreal. That emerald green water surrounded by those peaks. Tell me more. What makes it so special?
It's hard to describe. It's just breathtakingly beautiful and tranquil. The color of the water changes throughout the day depending on the light. You can hike around it, rent a rowboat, or just soak up the scenery.
Feels magical. Okay, so we've definitely got to see Lake Braze. Anything else nearby we shouldn't miss?
Not too far from the lake, there's a charming town called Dobiaco, worth exploring. It's got a historic center, some shops and cafes. And if you're interested in learning even more about the Trecime di Lavaredo, there's an information center there.
Oh, perfect. So we can get some more insights into those peaks. All right, Lake Braze, Dobiaco. That brings us to day 7. We're really covering a lot of ground. What's next?
For day 7, let's venture to the Sesto Dolomites, another amazing part of the region.
The Sesto Dolomites. All right, what should we expect there?
Well, think even more jagged peaks, dramatic scenery, and incredible hiking trails. We can base ourselves in the village of Sesto, it's a charming mountain town, and explore the Sesto Dolomites Nature Park.
Sounds like we're really going to be immersed in those mountains then. Another park to add to the list. So just to recap, we've got Bolzano, Cortina d'Ampezzo, Alta Badia, Val Gardena, Lake Braze and Dobiaco, and Sesto in the Sesto Dolomites. That brings us to the last 2 days of our trip. What should we do for those?
I recommend returning to Bolzano. It's a great base for any last-minute exploring and a chance to enjoy the city one last time before heading home.
I love that idea. It brings the trip full circle. Plus, I'm sure after all that hiking and exploring, it'll be nice to have a little city time before we head back.
Exactly. Plus, if you realize you've fallen in love with a particular region, you can always plan another trip and explore it even more deeply. 9 days is just a taste of what the Dolomites offer.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've mapped out the itinerary, but we haven't even talked about the food. And we all know Italian food is amazing. What are some regional specialties we should definitely try in the Dolomites?
Oh, you're in for a treat. The Dolomites have this unique culinary scene, blending Italian and Austrian influences. First up, you have to try polenta. It's a creamy cornmeal dish, often served with cheese or meat. So hearty and comforting, especially after a day of exploring.
Polenta. I've heard of that, but never tried it. Sounds perfect for those mountain evenings. What else is a must-try?
Game meats are popular in the Dolomites. Think venison, wild boar.
Oh,
And you can't leave without trying cannerli. They're these bread dumplings, sometimes served in broth or with butter and cheese.
wow, cannerli. That's a new one for me. Okay, those are going on the list. What about for dessert? Anything special we should try?
Of course, you've got to try apple strudel. It's classic, but for good reason. Thin, flaky pastry filled with apples and raisins. And of course, you can't go wrong with gelato.
Gelato, yes. I don't think I could go to Italy and not have gelato. Okay, so we've got the itinerary, we've got the food, but what about the culture? How will we see that Italian, Austrian, and Latin blend that you mentioned?
You'll notice it everywhere. The architecture, the language, even the way people interact. Many signs are in Italian, German, and Latin. You might even hear people speaking a dialect that's a little different from standard Italian.
It's fascinating how a place can hold on to its unique identity. And what about the Latin people? Are they a big part of the culture?
Definitely. They're an ancient culture. Their language is distinct from both Italian and German, and their traditions are really connected to the mountains. You'll find museums and cultural centers dedicated to their heritage.
That's amazing. It sounds like there's so much to learn and experience in the Dolomites beyond just the scenery. Anything else we should know before we head there?
One practical tip, the weather can be unpredictable in the mountains. So pack layers, even in summer, and always check the forecast. And make sure to let someone know your plans, especially if you're hiking.
Good advice. Safety first. Speaking of, you mentioned sustainable tourism earlier. What can we do to minimize our impact on the environment?
The Dolomites are committed to sustainability, and there are lots of things we can do. Choose eco-friendly accommodations and transportation. Use public transport whenever possible. Be mindful of your waste. Just remember to leave no trace and respect those beautiful natural areas.
Absolutely. It's on all of us to protect these incredible places. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've got a fantastic itinerary, and we've even gotten a taste of the food and culture.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
I know, right? But I think we've given our listener a great starting point for their Dolomite adventure. Now it's time to delve even deeper.
All right, welcome back to your Dolomite deep dive. I'm excited to keep going with this.
Me too. I'm already feeling inspired to book a trip. But before I get ahead of myself, I know we need to talk logistics. Getting around the Dolomites. It's a mountainous region, so I imagine that could be a bit tricky.
Yeah, you're right. It's important to think about that, but it's not as tricky as you might think. The most popular option is renting a car.
A car, okay. So we can just road trip through those mountains.
Exactly. You can cruise along those winding roads, stop wherever you want, take in the views. It's pretty awesome.
That does sound pretty amazing. But is it practical for everyone? What if someone's not super comfortable driving in the mountains? Or maybe they want to be a bit more eco-conscious.
You bring up some good points. Driving in the Dolomites isn't for everyone. The roads can be narrow and winding, and parking can be limited, especially in the smaller towns. But the good news is the public transportation system is actually quite good.
Really? I didn't realize that. So we could get around without a car.
Absolutely. There's a really good network of buses that connect most of the main towns and villages.
Buses, okay. So we could just hop on a bus and go.
Yep. And for a truly scenic experience, consider taking the train.
Oh, a train. That sounds lovely. Are there specific train routes you'd recommend?
For sure. One of the most famous is the Renin Railway. It goes from Bolzano up to the Renon Plateau. The views along the way are just incredible. The Dolomites, vineyards, you name it.
Wow, okay, I'm writing that down. Renin Railway. What about other train routes?
Another one is the Val Gardena Railway. It connects those three main villages we talked about, Ortisei, St. Ulrich, and St. Christina.
Perfect. So we can experience the valley without having to drive. Right, so we've got car rentals, buses, trains. Any other modes of transportation we should think about?
Well, I guess it depends what you mean by transportation. What about cable cars?
Cable cars. Oh, yes. I love cable cars. But they're more for specific experiences, right? Not really for getting around.
Yeah, exactly. But they are a part of the Dolomite experience. You can soar above those peaks, get panoramic views.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Are cable cars pretty common in the Dolomites?
Oh, yeah. You'll find them all over the place, taking you up to peaks, meadows, even glaciers.
A cable car to a glacier. Wow, that's definitely going on the list. Okay, so we've got transportation figured out. Cars for flexibility, buses and trains for convenience and being eco-friendly, and cable cars for those epic mountaintop views. Now let's talk about where we're actually going to stay. What kind of accommodation options are there in the Dolomites?
Well, you've got everything from luxury hotels to cozy guest houses to rustic mountain huts. It all depends on what kind of experience you're looking for.
Okay, let's start with the luxury side of things. What can we expect at a fancy Dolomite hotel?
If you're looking to splurge, there are some incredible five-star hotels, especially in towns like Cortina d'Ampezzo. Think spas, gourmet meals with those mountain views, and just pure relaxation.
Okay, that sounds amazing, but maybe a little out of my price range. What about those guest houses you mentioned? Are those more affordable?
For sure. Guest houses are a great way to get a more authentic experience, and they tend to be much more affordable than hotels. They're often family-run, so you get that personal touch, homemade breakfast, and you can really get to know the local area.
Oh, I love that. Soaking up the local culture. Okay, now for the mountain huts. I'm picturing those cute little cabins perched high up in the mountains. Are those actually places we can stay?
Yes. They're called rifugi in Italian, and they're an amazing way to immerse yourself in nature. Some are accessible by car or cable car, but others require a bit of a hike to reach.
Wow, so we could literally wake up in the heart of the mountains. Okay, so we've got luxury hotels, guest houses, and mountain huts. It sounds like there's an accommodation option for everyone, but with so many choices, how do we even begin to narrow it down?
It really comes down to what kind of experience you want to have. Do you want to be pampered? Do you want to connect with local life? Or do you want to escape into nature? Once you figure that out, you can start looking for specific places that fit.
Okay, that makes sense. Start with the experience you want, then find the place that matches. So is there a best time to visit the Dolomites? I imagine those mountain views are pretty spectacular year-round.
You're not wrong. The Dolomites are stunning in every season, but each season offers something different.
Okay, so let's break it down. What's special about summer?
Summer's definitely the most popular time to go. The weather's warm and sunny, the hiking trails are open, and there are wildflowers everywhere. It's perfect for outdoor activities.
Okay, I can see why summer's so popular, but I can imagine it gets a bit crowded. What about autumn? Is that a good time to visit?
Autumn is magical. The leaves change colors, so you get those incredible reds, oranges, and yellows all over the mountains. It's cooler, less crowded, perfect for hiking, scenic drives, and just enjoying that autumn atmosphere.
Okay, I can picture it now. Sipping hot chocolate as those colorful leaves fall. What about spring?
Spring is a time of renewal. The snow melts, the wildflowers start to bloom, and it's just beautiful. But some hiking trails might still be closed because of snow or mud.
Ah, okay, so maybe not the best time for serious hiking, but still beautiful, I bet. All right, that leaves us with winter. I imagine it's a whole different world in the Dolomites in winter.
You got it. Winter transforms the Dolomites into a winter wonderland. Think snow-covered peaks, cozy villages, perfect for skiing, snowboarding, or just cozying up by a fire.
All right, you've convinced me. It sounds like every season in the Dolomites has its own unique charm. So there's no wrong time to go. But I'm curious, what are some things that we absolutely cannot miss on a trip to the Dolomites? What are the must-do experiences?
Oh, there are so many. But hiking is definitely a must. The trails are incredible. The views are breathtaking. It's really the best way to experience the heart of the Dolomites.
Hiking, all right. Any specific trails or areas you'd recommend?
The Trecime di Lavaredo Loop is a classic. We already talked about it. But the trails in the Fansen and Prague's Nature Park are also amazing.
Okay, those are going on a list. But let's say someone's not into hiking, or maybe they want to experience the Dolomites from a different angle. What other activities would you recommend?
Well, there's always Via Ferratas. There are these protected climbing routes, kind of like a mix of hiking and rock climbing.
Via Ferratas. Okay, those sound intense, but exciting. What about something a little more relaxed?
You could always opt for a scenic drive or a bike ride. The roads are incredibly scenic, and you can stop along the way to take in the views or explore a village.
Okay, so we've got hiking, Via Ferratas, scenic drives, and bike rides. What about cultural experiences? Any museums or historical sites we shouldn't miss?
We already talked about the South Tyrolean Archaeological Museum in Bolzano, but there are tons of other options. You can explore medieval castles like Castel Roncolo, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that castle sounds amazing. It seems like there's so much history and culture to discover in the Dolomites.
Exactly. There's so much more to the Dolomites than meets the eye.
It sounds like the more you dig, the more there is to discover. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive: transportation, accommodation, and even some must-do activities. I'm ready for a break and maybe some of that delicious Dolomite food we talked about earlier.
Me too. In the next part, we'll get into the details of the Dolomite culinary scene. I'll give you the inside scoop on the must-try dishes and drinks. And we'll wrap up with some final tips for planning your trip.
Perfect. I can't wait to hear more. Okay, I'm ready for part 3 of our Dolomite deep dive, and you know what that means.
Food.
You know me so well.
Well,
I'm ready to talk all things Dolomite cuisine. In the last part, you mentioned some of the regional specialties, polenta, game meats, those Knitterly dumplings, but give me more. What are some dishes that our listener absolutely can't miss? Like, what should we be on the lookout for when we're exploring those charming towns and villages?
okay, get ready to take some notes because you won't want to forget these. First off, you have to try casunze.
Okay, what is that exactly?
So imagine these little half-moon-shaped ravioli. They're either filled with beetroot, which gives them this amazing color, or a mix of spinach and ricotta cheese.
Ravioli. Okay, I love ravioli. And the beetroot ones, that sounds so unique. What else should we add to our must-try list?
All right, next up we have turtlin.
Turtlin. Okay, that's a new one. What's turtlin?
They're these crispy flatbread pancakes made with buckwheat flour, and you can get them with all sorts of savory toppings like melted cheese, speck, which is this amazing smoked ham you'll find all over the Dolomites, or even sautéed mushrooms.
Wow, okay, so basically savory pancakes. That sounds amazing. All right, what about dessert? What should we be looking out for to satisfy our sweet tooth?
You already mentioned apple strudel, which is a classic, and for a good reason, but you should also try Kaiserschmarrn.
Okay, another new one, Kaiserschmarrn. Tell me more, what is it?
It's basically like this fluffy, shredded pancake, dusted with powdered sugar, usually served with some kind of fruit compote.
Okay, that sounds amazing. I'm definitely a sucker for anything pancake related. All right, so we've got our savory dishes and our sweet treats, but what about drinks? What should we be sipping on as we soak up those Dolomite views?
Well, the Dolomites have some fantastic wines. From the Trentino Alto Adige region, you'll find some great, cool climate varieties.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
Pinot Grigio, that's always a classic. And then Gewürztraminer, which is a bit more aromatic. And if you want something a little bolder, try a Lagreen.
Those all sound good. And what about for the beer lovers out there? Any local brews we should try?
Oh yeah, craft beer is getting really big in the Dolomites. You'll find little breweries all over, each one with their own spin on traditional brewing.
Okay, so we've got local wines and craft beers, something for everyone. I feel like we've got a pretty good handle on what to eat and drink in the Dolomites, but you've spent a lot of time there, right?
Yeah.
So I have to ask, what are your insider tips? What are those little things that only someone who really knows the Dolomites would tell us?
Okay, here's one that I always tell people. Don't be afraid to go off the beaten path a little bit.
What do you mean by that?
Like, some of the most authentic experiences you'll have will be in those smaller villages, those places that aren't as crowded with tourists.
I love that advice. Get away from the crowds and discover those hidden gems. What other insider tips do you have?
This might sound simple, but learn a few basic Italian phrases. Even if you don't speak the language fluently, making an effort to communicate with the locals in their language makes a huge difference.
That's a great tip. I know even a few words can go a long way. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's been amazing exploring the Dolomites with you, learning about all the things to see, do, eat, and experience. As we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave our listener with?
You know, the Dolomites are more than just a place to visit. They're an experience that stays with you. The mountains, the valleys, those villages, even the food. It all comes together to create something really special.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this journey through the Dolomites.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. I hope you have an incredible time exploring the Italian Dolomites.